order the April 25th meeting of the Hazlet School Board. It's at this time in our agenda that we invite people from the audience to speak to the board on any item that's not currently on our agenda. So if there's anyone here tonight that would like to speak to the board, please step to the podium.
Thank you, Mike. My name is Don Frank at 5277 Cornell Road. As you all know, I'm a candidate for your seat, Mike, or for Mr. McIntyre's seat. I just want to take this opportunity, since this is the last board meeting where I'll be a candidate. If I'm optimistic, I'll be a board member. If I'm not so optimistic, then I won't be. But I wanted to share a couple of thoughts while I had this opportunity. When we started out, my wife and I talked on, we decided that being a candidate could be nothing but positive. And I just wanted to share with you and the others here that might in the future think of running for the school board that that's proved to be absolutely true. And you gentlemen and ladies and the teachers and administrators, as well as members of our community, really are largely responsible for that. Mr. Duda and Mr. Thibodeau right up front made it clear that any candidate that wanted to approach them to learn more about it was more than welcome to do that, and they generously shared their time with not only myself but any other candidates that approached them. Mr. Fowler participated in the Ingham ISD training session, and you've all been very approachable. And I want to tell you, and I'm sure the other candidates really appreciate that. And the teachers as well have been wonderful. Any teacher administrator that I've approached trying to learn more about the school system and move beyond being a parent has just been wonderful. And that doesn't mean they're supporting me necessarily. I'd like to say, oh yeah, they all support me. But what that really means is that any candidate that would approach them, they were really open and willing to meet with. And I know that you've all been candidates, so I'm kind of preaching to the choir. But it never hurts to hear that again. I think our school system has really been great and very supportive, and win or lose, because of you people and the teachers and the other administrators, as well as the community, it's been a tremendous experience, and I'd like to thank all of you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on in the agenda to the student report. Nikki?
Yep. At Wilkshire, Jennifer Ward was the visiting author. She wrote Somewhere in the Ocean, and music class, gym class, art class were all incorporated in the theme. Kids also decorated the library, so that was a fun activity. Roundup is this Thursday and Friday. They have close to 170 students pre-registered, and they just found out about their new principal, Gail Hicks. So that's exciting. At Murphy, March was reading month, and students were encouraged to read and place their 30-minute reading tickets in for a special drawing at the end of the month. The drawing was for one student at each grade level to be selected for principal for a day. The children were able to choose one friend and go out to lunch with Mrs. Lindbergh, and also lead the morning pledge and help monitor the halls in the morning. Congratulations to the students. They were second grade, Mark Cozio, third grade, Katie Denzik, and fourth grade, Chad Banger. I'm really bad at these names, I'm sorry. Fifth grade, Rami Omar. So, also their annual carnival will be held Friday, April 29th. And Mary Sutbury, a parent volunteer, she's going to be bringing in tree seedlings to sell for 25 cents each, and this is in honor of Arbor Day. Mrs. Sweet's fourth grade classroom, along with Mrs. Leone and Mrs. Mahone's third grade classroom, they're joined classrooms if you didn't know, they tied and both won the Box Tops collection contest. Each classroom won a prize party. Murphy's school total collection for the competition totaled $1,094. Thank you to Mrs. Tim, who organized the competition and counted the box tops. Murphy is also doing the mileage club during the lunch recesses again this year. It's a way to encourage the students to become more physically fit. It's put on by Sparrow Health System and Playmakers. They're offering the Feelin' Good Mileage Club. The Michigan Mileage Club will culminate with the Michigan Mile at Oldsmobile Park on Saturday, June 4th. And thank you to Joanne McFadden for coordinating. At Raleigh, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital Mathathon earned over $6,500. Friday, the 22nd, was the annual science fair. They had over 20 presenters from the community alone, and the 4th and 5th graders had displays, and they were awesome, as usual. The 2nd graders spent 1 week at Meridian Historical Village, and they lived life as it was in the 1800s. At Meridian, prom is May 13th. Students and staff also participated in a Race for the Cure, which was this weekend on Sunday, and they raised $1,000. That was their goal, and they reached it. So June 1st is their graduation, and they have 30-plus students graduating. At the high school, TV 25, yearbook, newspaper, they all won Spartan Awards at the MIPA conference. Excuse me, slow down, okay.
Julie just happens to have one with her, so.
Good, yes. Mrs. Price.
Yeah.
It's the top awards issued by the state. It's okay, I know what you meant. It's JP, actually. Many individual awards were also distributed. AP testing is coming up next week for AP English anyway. Spring track is off to a great start. And the senior party will take place May 21st at 8:00 p.m. to 1 a.m. And registration is from 8 to 9, so doors will close at 9. I also have an announcement. For the seniors who haven't yet contacted a catering service for open houses, Tarpoff's Catering is available at 517-484-1991, and you can ask for Paul or Steve Stornett. So, pardon? No.
That's great.
That concludes my report. Yeah, sorry.
Thanks, Nikki.
Thank you.
Kristen, do we have any correspondence?
We do, Mike. We have a thank you note for an arrangement that we sent to Michelle Angel when her father recently passed away. So we thank her for that nice card that she sent to the board.
Thank you. And next is the superintendent's report. Mike?
Thanks, Michael. I have 4 resignations to report to the community and Board of Education. Shirley McIntosh, business teacher for 27 years, will be retiring this year. Sandy Taylor, Wilkshire office aide, is retiring after 25 years. Jason Coward, middle school teacher for 3.5 years, has resigned. And Kelly Vogel, elementary music teacher for the past 3 years, has resigned. And I'd like to extend my best wishes to all 4 of those individuals. A reminder, the annual school election will take place on May the 3rd. On Wednesday, April the 20th, the PTO sponsored the Meet the Candidates Night. And I'd like to thank Bob Hewitt and the PTO members Patty McPhee, Jessica Lannon, Dawn Hall, and Evelyn Jackson for their help that evening. And also extend a thank you to our board candidates for their great performance on April the 20th. Lori Barbieri, Chris Cody, Don Frank, David Hamilton, and Jim Wood. And Nikki stole my thunder on the next one. But, I'm pleased to announce that Gail Hicks, our middle school assistant principal, is being recommended to the Board of Education this evening as our new Wilkshire principal. Gail's been with the district for 27 years as a teacher and an administrator, and she'll be replacing Bob Hewitt. But we have Gail here this evening, and Gail, if you'd step to the podium, maybe you have a couple words. Gail had quite a day today.
I did. I am extremely excited and delighted with this opportunity. I spent the morning, or the beginning of the morning anyways, at Wilkshire. I was introduced to the staff as a new principal and then walked around, and very excited and can hardly wait for the school year to end so we can get started at Wilkshire also. But looking forward to working with all those great people over there. And thank you all for your support, and I'll be seeing you in a different role. Just so you know, I was a Wilkshire graduate. The safety captain as a 5th grader, and I student taught at Wilkshire. So it seems like I should just be at Wilkshire. I was destined to be back.
Obviously swung the
Yeah, full circle.
resume.
So thank you.
Well, Gail was one of 40 candidates that applied for this position and went through the interview process and certainly deserves this position. So congratulations, Gail.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Then I have one other item. I want to, special thanks to Mary Sutberry for her efforts in celebrating Arbor Day with our elementary students. And she arranged for our students to buy tree seedlings, and this is something that Mary has done over the years, and is a special day for our students. So thanks again to Mary Sutberry. And that concludes my report.
Okay, great, thanks, Mike. Our first discussion item, Julie Price is here from the high school, and is going to give us a presentation, concerning the journalism program at the high school.
Thank you for having me, inviting me to come in and visit. You have two of my finest journalists behind your camera right now, so.
All right.
Just to start off, Nikki stole some of my thunder too with the Spartan Awards that we received. Friday was our annual spring conference, awards conference, and we enter the Viking Longboat and the Dixit Yearbook in for criteria judging. And what that means is that the publications are sent to out-of-state judges where they are critiqued pretty heavily and, real honestly. And the whole reason for doing that is to make sure that we are living up to professional standards, that we're putting out quality products. And both of the publications received Spartan Awards, which is the top criteria award you can receive. And just to give you an idea, I wrote down some of the figures, and this is me counting, so it's somewhat rough. But there were 175 Michigan Spartan entries, and only 44 schools received Spartans. That's combined in yearbook, newspaper, and video. And yearbook, newspaper, and video at Hazlitt received Spartan Awards. So I think that really shows that our publications and our broadcast program are totally on track, and it gives us some things that we want to reach even higher for. The critique Tricia has at home right now, studying it to help us set some goals for the future. And then individual awards. In newspaper, we had 17 individual newspaper awards, 2 first places, Kelly Stonebrook and Alyssa Hartley for News Story, and Tricia Bobita for Personality Profile. We are in a tough category. We're Division III, and we're up against some of the top student newspapers in the state and in the country, actually. And then in yearbook, we had 13 individual awards and 1 first place, and that was in sidebar writing. So we were pleased. I was real pleased. And we've had some individuals doing quite well in other areas, especially Tricia Bobita, who we're going to bring these two out from behind their cameras in a moment. But Tricia has been named a runner-up for National High School Journalist of the Year by the Journalism Education Association. And in talking to my other advisor cohorts from the state, we can't think of another Michigan student who has received that high an honor at the national level for that competition. And in order to qualify for that, she put together a portfolio. And Tricia put together 3 portfolios this winter to be considered for various competitions. And 2 of them were at the state level. She was part of the All Michigan journalist staff, and we had a really nice evening get together last week. And then She also submitted her national portfolio for Michigan consideration, where she was, it was decided that she would be the Michigan representative at the national level, and she received this honor. And I'm very proud of her. I mean, I feel like I'm working with some of the best kids there are. We spend a lot of quality time together. In fact, just a few minutes ago, one of our young journalists came in to tell Tricia that a story was falling through for the next issue. So they find her to be their leader, and she's done just a great job. So I would like to bring Tricia up here, and then also Derek Moore. And I'll explain about him. Come on up here. Derek is our design editor, and if you haven't noticed, this year's Longboat has taken on a new look. It's really taken some really great steps forward with the design of it, as well as the quality of the writing in there, which is always something we're striving for. But Derek has set the tone for that a lot, and he got a second place award through MIPA for an advertising design, which involved using all of the wonderful technology that we now have in my classroom, thanks to the foundation grant we were given this past spring. And these kids are using every bit of it, and Derek is just a great example of that. So I know they each have something they would like to say. Try not to drop this down.
Initially, I joined newspaper class last year because it was an English credit, and I didn't want to take any more English classes. So then I found out that I really enjoyed it, and it turns out I became a design editor this year, and I went to a camp over the summer too, which was like probably one of the best experiences, because when you go to a camp like with these kind of people, like they're dealing with different things in a sports camp, so you talk about different things, and like your discussions, like I definitely had an interesting discussion with people about politics. Like you wouldn't go to sports camp and necessarily talk about politics. So it was definitely a fun experience, and because of this program, like this is gonna be the career that I'm gonna be going into. Like I haven't decided exactly where my plans are; they're still up in the air. But I definitely plan on going into design, some of visual communications degree, and like definitely like the new computers that we had. Like last year we had like one computer that was sufficient. And this year we have an abundance, and they're all being used. Like today, like people are like, oh, like I can't get my computer to do stuff. And they were all designing, and it was just really cool to see, you know, towards the end of the year, everyone coming together. And it's not just like, you know, the root people, but we're definitely bringing up juniors for next year to be doing things. So that's exciting.
Like Derek was saying, I mean, we have a pretty fun group, kind of a funky group together with the newspaper. You just saw one of them run in because the lacrosse team canceled the practice, so he couldn't get an interview. But we're all working, and he's someone who wouldn't necessarily think of himself as someone who would cover sports, but everybody has a role in the newspaper, and we're all kind of working together, and not everybody has to be the best on the computers or the best writer. But what you learn in these programs is that it doesn't matter if you have one great person, because you need 20 to 30 just hardworking people to do anything well. Doesn't matter how, you know, Derek and I did the first issue almost alone, because we were the only ones that had been trained from the year before. And he's right. Today, all 10 or however many computers we have, we're full of people all working on InDesign, which is a pretty complex design program, all editing each other's stories, helping each other out. And they've learned that all over the course of 1 year from Julie Price. So I think she needs a round of applause too, actually, for leading these programs to and she'll never take credit, but it's due. So she's taught me a lot, and I know that I also am going to journalism school next year, and I feel prepared, not only for journalism school, but for anything that college can throw at me, because I've worked in crazy deadline situations. I've had to deal with people who I don't get along with, people who I do get along with, and we've made that work. And so all those experiences aren't necessarily what you get in the typical classroom, but the vocational opportunities it has are outstanding, along with the TV program and the yearbook, which I'm also involved with. But I just appreciate your continued support of these programs, because they're helping us figure out what we're going to be doing with the rest of our lives. So thanks.
There you go.
It's really tough to hang out with kids like that. Thank you again for inviting us to come in, and I'm really proud of these young adults and watching them take off. So, do you have any questions? Any questions, guys?
I'd just like to say, I've been around long enough that I can remember when we didn't have a school newspaper. And I had a journalism class when I was in high school, and I wasn't very good at it. I was in the sports because I was sort of into sports, but so it made it easy for me. But it's nice to hear the testimonials of the Derricks and the Trishas here, and to see the growth of the longboat over the years. I know it hasn't been without a ripple or two once in a while, but they've certainly been reduced, and I certainly think that that's a result of, you know, the learning curve, and you, Julie, as far as your ability to use the technology, have the foresight to see what's needed, go to the foundation, which is the source that all of our staff should be using more, and you did it, and I'm glad to see that the kids appreciate that you've done it, and I'm glad to see the I, as a board member, and I'm sure my fellow board members, honestly read the longboat. I mean, there's a lot of things I get in a packet every week that I don't read. Self-confessed, I can say that now. But the longboat is not one of them. I usually read that pretty much from cover to cover. So it's an interesting publication. It has gotten better, and I thank you for that, bringing that to Haslet High.
We'll share that with the kids.
Yes.
We're working hard.
I just want to say that I agree with Tricia that Julie is a huge part of this. I know my son was one of the kids that was there when they won, I think it was the first Spartan Award that
Very
you guys.
first Spartan
and
Award.
So it was
Shot
early
the
on, there
heavens.
wasn't a lot of, materials to work with and everything like that, but they were greatly inspired by you as a teacher, and we've seen over the years just how much that means to a classroom and to building a program, is that
Thank you.
personal inspiration that you bring to it. So thank you very much, and it's great. We knew these kids were real good, even though they're pretty quiet at our meetings, but it's good to hear how well they're doing outside of here too.
They sure are.
Thank you.
Questions? Great.
In, well, in closing, since I'm the president, I get the last word. Is one of the things, and I just want to piggyback on what Scott said, since my son is no longer in the high school, I really look forward to getting the longboat in the board packet. And I do read it from cover to cover, and I really appreciate what the students have done and the reporting that's in there, because it really helps me get a real feel for what's happening in the high school and what the students are thinking and what's going on. And it's a great publication, and you do wonderful work, and pass back to the other students, the great work that they do. And as you've heard, the board really does appreciate it.
Well,
and,
thank you.
We look forward to it.
It's just wonderful that there's support for the student voice, because they have incredible voices and they learn to use them responsibly and ethically and all that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next presentation, we're going to have a couple of technology presentations, and I think Colleen is going to go first.
Looks a little bit like Baldy.
Laura Baldwin's going to go first.
Needs a little FaceTime.
Yes.
Before I start, I just would like to go on record as saying that personally, I really wasn't all that elated with your choice.
We do
As a
understand.
matter of fact, Mrs. Hicks and I are currently not on speaking. No, seriously, it's a great choice, and I know that I can speak for all our staff, and we're really, really going to miss Gail. She's been more than just an integral part of our program in our school. It's going to be very different not having her there. But certainly our loss will be Wilkshire's name, and the Wilkshire staff better realize how lucky they really are. So congratulations, Gail. Okay. Thank you for having us here this evening, and I'm here to present to you Gail. I wish I was here presenting Gail for us. Colleen Pringle. 2 years ago, many grant opportunities come across your desk. And from the ISD, we had one that was called the Handheld Computer Pilot Project. It was a grant opportunity that came across the desk, and it looked very good. I thought it was something that possibly one of our teachers could get involved in. So I put it out to the teachers, and I can't remember if it was through email or it was through email. And it didn't surprise me that within really class hours when she was available, Colleen Pringle was in my office immediately. And I know that, first of all, the project is about getting up to 30 handheld computers, or Palm Pilots as sometimes they're called, for your students to use in class over the course of the year. And I knew she'd be in there because there's several goals for the program, but two of them. One of the goals is to improve student learning, and the other one was to provide students with the skills to lead the 21st century workforce. And that's one of the things that caught me, and that's why Colleen was in there too, because that's the kind of teacher she is, and it caught her as well. She did apply for it, and there was really only 6 recipients in the whole county that received them. They had to be science teachers in classrooms, and Colleen was one of 6. And we talk a lot, actually the letter of acceptance is excellent, because it talks about, the reason that you were chosen was the information what you gave, but it also says this, it says, and that you would be a great representative in providing the needed guidance for students to excel in this fantastic learning experience. That's the key. And we as administrators talk a lot about the fact that it's not the programs that make it, it's the people. And Colleen Pringle is an example of one of those people. She's taken this and just ran with it, just unbelievable. I know that Mrs. Hicks is working on her growth plan. We do growth plans with our teachers every 3 years. And of course, she incorporated this with it, and it's just been great, great work. So we really, really appreciate Colleen and the work she's done. She's here with some students, I know, and she's going to talk about the project for the last 2 years. So, Colleen, Pringle.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Baldy, for that great introduction. I'm really excited to be here tonight to share with you our Palm Pilots, and I thought the best way to do that would be to bring one for each of you to try, because I can stand up here and explain all about them, and you probably couldn't visualize what I was talking about if you don't own one. But can I see a show of hands, how many of you have your own handheld Palm Pilot? So a couple. And I brought my 5th hour students, a couple of them, because they're so good. We all know how good the young students are, better than we are on them. So they will be walking behind you and can help you out if you have any questions, as will I. But like Baldy said, it was about January last year.
Yeah, you might as well park right behind us. Over
here. It's not as hard as you think. You'll be fine. Baldy emailed us about January of last year, and I did go right to him, and I heard that administrators had gotten Palm Pilots through a program. So I wanted to know all about him, and he showed me his, which was made it even more interesting because I thought, there it is, I could have that, So I talked to a couple other people. Andrew Rumsey in our building said her sister has them in another school district in her classroom, and so she was on the phone and emailing her sister, and I had all sorts of help. But I was just excited, and a lot of the questions were like, what experience do you have with the handheld? Well, I don't have any, but I would be really interested, and I would be excited to take classes and do what I needed to do. So I guess that worked because I got a grant, and I do have 30 classroom handhelds. There's Zyre 71s. They have a camera package on them, so the students have been taking pictures of their labs, incorporating those into the lab write-ups, which are done right on the handheld computer. They have 30 keyboards that come with them, and the keyboards are about, the size of a large wallet. We also have many science probes that I'll talk a little bit about, temperature probes, light probes that attach to these. Let's see, what else do we use? Heart rate monitors we used in our classroom already. So they're just a wonderful piece of technology that I've been able to incorporate, and that's one area where I felt like I was a little weak because I didn't have a lot of computer training in college or even in high school. So it's been wonderful. Let me introduce you 2 students from my 5th hour class, Nick Rayberger and Monica Barnes. I'm going to have them come up and help pass out the handhelds, and then I can actually show you some of the work that we've been doing on these handhelds. So, let me just grab. And we have student pictures on them because the students who said they can use mine wanted you to know whose they were. So I put their picture up there so that you could see that. They're excited that you're actually using your hand.
Scott and I want somebody that won't laugh too hard at the 2 of us here.
Oh, let me do it.
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
That's usually not a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, if you take the top.
Everybody in my family has one of these but me.
top piece off and take it out of the package, you'll see the handheld computer like so. The silver buttons should be at the bottom. Silver buttons go at the bottom. If it is not turned on, at the top there's a green power button. Green power button at the top. You want to turn the power on. Right behind the power button, right behind the power button is a stylus.
Tell us which end is up.
I did.
Well, this is silver too.
Oh, you got, there was one here in this pouch. There was an extra one here. You want one?
Okay, so everybody's got their stylus and their handhelds turned on. Wonderful, you're great students. Okay,
I was looking for you.
let me get you a little bit
Mine's on
familiar
the
with the
side.
handhelds. Okay, we're gonna look at the silver circles at the bottom of the screen. One is of a house, that's your home button. It'll take you back to the icons. Icons are like, you know, on your desktop computer that you set at maybe every day. If you hit the home button, you'll see all the different icons or programs or applications that will pop up. Go ahead and hit the star, the silver circle that has a star in it. That's the calculator on the computer. So our students use that quite a bit. If we're using formulas in the science classroom, they'll use their calculator for converting and all sorts of things. Go ahead and hit the magnifying glass on the silver circle in the bottom right. That allows you to pull up anything that we've done by name. And then the other silver circle on the left, bottom left, is a pull down key to use other applications that, whatever program you're in, it brings down the information at the top. We're gonna look at the buttons on the bottom now. There are square, rectangle-ish silver buttons. If you push the bottom left, that's a date book. The students have been using the date book, so make sure they can find the date book. Right now it's on the day, but if you tap on, there are little squares at the bottom. If you tap on the squares, you can see how it shows you the week, what we have planned for the week, and also what we have for the whole month. So the students type in, we have a science test, we have a social studies test. It's actually their planner and their calendar as well. The second silver button at the bottom is an address book. Some of the students use the address book, some of them don't, but you'll see phone numbers and email addresses in there. The third silver button on the bottom shows the photos. We take lab photos and put those in our lab write-up. At this time, since you're in photo mode, I'm going to show you how to use the camera. You slide the blue part of the handheld forward or up. Slide the blue part up, and it becomes a camera. And that little gray button at the bottom, you can take a photo.
It does work.
That would be a great photo for the students to have when we
Rob,
take
does yours,
that.
hey, Rob, does yours have a photo, does yours,
Perfect, they will love it.
I'd be playing around with it too much at the office.
Okay.
I like the slideshow there, that's pretty cool. You got slides? Just
Then you
get
can tap on
slideshow,
it
that's
to make
pretty
it
cool.
larger. Tap on the
You
photo.
gotta have, you gotta have a lot better eyes than I got to see these pictures.
It's gotta be a
A
last.
little small.
Okay. The last silver button on the right, if you tap on that,
Memos.
that's probably in a program called Free Write. Some of them have Free Write on there, and it's where we write our papers. Now let me show you some of the work that we've been doing in science. I would like you to tap on the house button to go back to all your icons, the house button, and find a program called Sketchy. Sketchy, it's red, it has pens and pencils on
Ooh,
the
look at
icon.
this.
Sketchy, tap on Sketchy
Oh, these are better than my programs.
and hit open.
They're not at the right screens.
Okay, so hit home,
Keep hitting it.
Sketchy, there's
My
Sketchy.
toast is
Tap on Sketchy,
Open it.
hit open.
See, it's not just me.
Make sure the camera's closed.
No, it's just you.
That would be mine.
All right, and then if you go into a couple of those programs, here, Nicole, to try to get that started.
My toast is not
And
very
open up, let's open up first the electromagnetic spectrum. Everybody should have electromagnetic spectrum. Go to the scroll down, silver scroll down circle. silver scroll on circle.
All right.
Once the electromagnetic spectrum is open, and there's a bar that says, keep looking, see if they have, play animation. And this is actually a little animated electromagnetic wave where it goes from longer wavelength to shorter wavelength. The students were studying gamma rays, infrared, ultraviolet, visible light. And so they actually had to know which was at the higher wavelength then, the lower wavelength then. They had to know which colors were, you know, in order of wavelength to do that. Hit exit,
Where's exit?
tap on your phone.
Right over there.
Sketchy, you'll get really good at this in a minute. Sketchy, open. And then you can open mitosis. Mitosis was a cell lab, and you can see how if you hit the same thing, play, go down to the scroll down button, play animation, you'll see how we learned about chromosomes and how the chromosomes lined up, doubled in the cell, and then the cell separated. So the
see the
kids had to
cell
draw
there.
each of these stages
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
it's in the
animation,
bottom.
and then you can play it and see the cell parts moving and coming apart.
Oh, see, you have to play this whole thing. I don't know which one the show is. I don't have this
All
program.
right, let's try a different icon. Tap on your exit, home, and let's go to Pico Map. It's another red icon, Pico Map. Pico Map, hit open when you're there. And in Pico Map, you can tap on, it doesn't matter, any one of those. Let's go to sound. And we like to use concept maps in our classroom where you take words that are important and you relate them. So you can see the words in the clear circles are the important words that I gave the students, and they had to somehow connect them and relate those and show the meaning, and you know, it's kind of a review activity at the end of a unit. And there are a number of Pico maps that they did in this type of program there. Next, let's use our keyboard. So if you can hit home and find memo pad.
Okay.
It's like a pad of paper.
Memo
Home
pad.
memo pad. New on the bottom of the screen. And let's take out the second piece of equipment, which is our keyboard.
Oh,
You
yeah.
open the keyboard up.
Now that I got that mastered.
It unfolds on the back side. Flip it over. Yep, that little latch comes open.
Just the latch.
That's the latch. Okay. It's actually set up like so, and an infrared. Monica, make sure they get the infrared lever up. Good. Flips back. Infrared comes up, and the silver bar comes out to hold it in there. I would like you just to type a sentence for me. Anything you want, just one sentence, and then we'll beam it to our neighbors. It does not have to slide in anything. It's communicating through the infrared port. Yeah.
Go to what, Colleen? The new memo?
Yeah, new.
Set it there. The Miss Dallas?
There you go, you're on a new memo, so just type a sentence.
Whoa, went off.
Yeah, he's probably got a short screen time on there. Don't start working on it.
Oh, it's over here.
Is yours working?
Yeah.
Where's mine? It's gotta line up here somewhere. Okay. Okay, come on.
Okay, go in my vein, grab a paper phone. You might have to adjust that one. Okay, after you have a sentence, I'm gonna tell you how to beam. Monica, go ahead.
Okay,
Take it from Mr. Gardner. Just do soft reset and then get him back to memo. So-
There's a question mark up there somewhere.
Okay, and then I'll show you how the students beam. This activity, let me just tell you about this activity to get so we get Mr. Gardner up to speed here. In this activity, what we do is I have the students, I give each row a topic. And if the topic is photosynthesis, and we were maybe in one row in my classroom, which would be a little large, but half of you, I would say, go ahead and start and type one sentence about photosynthesis. And then you would beam it to the next person, so they have the first sentence, and you have to add a sentence. And then she'll beam it to the next person, and you'll add a sentence. The last person will stand up and read their paragraph about photosynthesis. The next row would read their paragraph about transpiration, and on and on. So now that you just typed your sentence, I'm gonna show you, go ahead and pick up your handheld in your hands.
I don't have a second.
Go up to the red memo at top of your screen, tap on the word memo, and it says beam memo. Now you can, if Mrs. Lovey, Bev Lovey is beaming Scott McIntyre, then he can't be beaming at the same time. So, go ahead and hit beam memo, and at the top is the infrared, so you have to point the two top of your handhelds towards each other.
Scott.
Okay, Scott, can you point yours, this is searching, and then like,
Type.
yours will
See if
say
you can receive.
receiving. Do you want to receive it? You say yes. Go ahead and hit yes. That is her sentence.
Here, Chris.
I call it, this is fun.
Excellent. Now you can go ahead and beam your sentence to her. Or you can try to beam it all the way across there.
What did you hit to beam it?
Memo.
You can.
Yep. Beam memo. There you go.
Okay, go ahead and beam it.
I'm not sure, it usually only goes about 3 feet, so it might not go all that way, but you can point it towards Beth. I'm not sure if it's gonna work.
Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah, bend it down.
Let's see.
Say it.
It's only on stun, it's not on kill.
It's on stun.
No, I don't know that.
There we go. Do you want to accept it? Absolutely. Anything from you, Chris.
Okay, the keyboard might not be working, but you can use, do you know how you use graffiti on it?
Are you ready?
Like on here, like.
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, but I don't know that.
Oh,
I just got a yes.
Yeah, cause I did it with my fingernails.
Oh.
Oops, now I'm on a page that I don't know. Oh, here
And
it
then
is.
if you wanna hit backspace,
want
just
this
put
one.
your stylus on there and back it up.
Memo.
You wrote all that.
Oops, the beam category? You think?
Kristen, are you ready?
Oops is technology.
Just a second.
Searching.
She sent the whole
Let's
memo
see.
pad.
Says receiving all.
Yeah, see, I just got handheld.
Okay.
No, that's just at the beginning.
You're gonna have a whole bunch of stuff.
This is my
I
sentence.
didn't write that much.
Because I can never
Okay.
I can never
Well, where,
Oh, I can't
where
send
is,
it to you. You send it to me.
Send it
I
to you.
was on this one. That's the one I wrote. So now if
I thought it just did. Let's try that again.
Okay.
Nope. Well, if you wanna go to the one you read.
Searching for you?
I'm gonna go back and send them you know.
All right, go ahead.
This one? Oh, done. Oops.
And you know, if you reset, you have to turn the power on.
Oops, I touched it a little or didn't I?
Yes.
So go back down to memo.
This is, yes, it
Where
is.
is it?
Couldn't
That
find
was
it.
being strong.
Yes, it is.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Is that technology?
Okay, I know it.
Did you get that?
I saw it.
Okay, are we done with that one? Let's tap on the home key.
Here's the message I got from Tobias, let me beam you.
Beam.
Let's tap on the home key and go back home.
Oh, yeah, beam me.
I'm 30.
Should we erase this?
We'll delete it tomorrow. They're really good at, you know, adding things and wiping it off if they don't need it, or.
Is it searching or anything? Let me do it again.
You know, you guys could talk, you're not that far apart. So only 3 feet.
Can I beam anybody?
Except Scott needs more special.
Okay.
Oh,
If you
sure.
want,
Pick on the dummy.
students,
Beam me up, Scott. Where's that joke? Where's that joke? I was waiting for the beam me up, Scott.
I know, I know. It really is fun. Okay, if, I can have Nick and Monica back over here real quick to the podium. You can start folding up. You have to make sure you put the infrared arm down. That's the most important thing on your keyboard. Make sure that infrared arm goes down and the metal bar has to be pushed back in. Yeah, and then this comes over. The top folds down on top of it. And then you snap it up. There we go. Anyone need a little help with that, or are we getting it?
Get the arm somewhere.
They're on off is different than mine.
Yeah, okay, don't put your handheld away, I want more.
The little arms
The
are.
keyboard, yes, the handheld, keep it out.
Okay.
Okay, you're looking for a green question mark icon called Quizler. Quizler. And it says you hit quiz options at the bottom when you get there and hit begin quiz. I have a 5-question quiz for you. And this is what the students would do with science questions, but I have board questions for them, board member questions. And, yep, begin.
Where do I go? What am I going to?
Quizlet with a green question mark.
I got it.
Yep,
I
scroll
got it
down.
right now.
Oh, boy.
Touch their name.
Ta-da! 5 for 5.
This is good. I cracked the wrong one. Oh, I accidentally said
I got
flowers,
100%.
but I need
I didn't know we had I didn't know you had 3 daughters.
Well, you blew it.
I know you had 2.
There's options.
Okay, because I knew that answer.
Okay.
I knew this. Oh, I know these.
Oh,
That would be.
But that's not,
which board member?
board member, that's a bad question.
This is a bad, this is a bad question.
I asked, they
board
said you
member
are
has
a
served
member
the longest?
Oh, gosh, I know.
Yeah, you are a member of the
Is
board.
he a
Yes, you
member?
are.
Which board member has 3
Yes.
daughters?
I only got 80% done.
Hey,
I got a.
At the end, it will show you, if you hit okay, it will show you your percent if you got 4 out of 5.
All right.
Board member played football at MSU.
Of course, I knew.
5 out of 5, good job.
No, I didn't.
So you,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know you were a board member.
well, Colleen did because she had all 3 of them.
Is that a motion or a motion, you think?
There's ways you know that. Some
Alright.
people are lucky.
Okay to say this
You
score with
can-
a specified name?
You can go ahead and turn the button on top
Who's
to
M.
off.
Bartels? Is that who's, if I got a name on here, is that
Yeah, Amanda
who's I have?
Yes,
M. Mark Bartels? This,
yes,
Okay.
Melissa Bartels.
okay.
You can go ahead and turn it off,
See, I
and put
don't-
it back in the jacket.
See, I don't have it on
I've
my
asked Monica and Nick to say just a few words because they've not only used their handheld in science class, but they use it outside my classroom. So I thought maybe they would share 1 or 2 things on what else they use it for. So
turn it
Nick,
off.
you can go first.
On my Palm Pilot, I actually have 2 different programs for books, and one of them is audiobooks, and it's just a program called Audible, and you can download any book you want onto that and listen to it. And there's also another program where you can actually read the book on the screen. And you can also have games on the Palm Pilots, and one of the games that I like is Bookworm, and there's like, you connect a bunch of letters to form a word, and there's a bunch of games you can put on there and other programs for
golf, you want me to beam it to you?
He's got a call.
I use my Palm Pilot for taking notes outside of class. Like if we have to take notes in social studies, I'll use the keyboard and type it on my Palm Pilot. And when I get home, I can hot sync to my computer. And okay, well when you hot sync, you can transfer the information from your Palm Pilot to your computer. So the notes I type up on my Palm Pilot, I can print out on my computer. And you can also use it to watch videos on it if you want and download music.
Okay, if you two, can you take the bag and collect the keyboard and the Palm Pilot? Just to finish up, I had mentioned before, we've used the heart rate monitors in class. That was really fun to do. We talked a little bit about life processes and human life processes early on in the year. So they had to attach this heart rate monitor outside their shirt, and the information went on the handheld calculators, and it graphs that. We could study different students' heart rates. We can start exercising, do a number of things. We also recently used the light probes, and so we did a study with light intensity, discovering how filters take away some of the light intensity, and we'd done a light unit. We still have to use the temperature probes. We're coming up to an elements unit, and we're going to use our temperature probes shortly. But receiving this grant was one of the best things to help me get technology introduced into my classroom. It's been a great motivating tool for the students. Just like you could see, you just want to get in there, and every day I have to start class by saying, okay, we're going to do a warm-up, but you got to turn your handhelds off, because as soon as they walk in the door, their handhelds are on. They're telling the student next to them something new they found on a computer and downloaded to their handheld. I mean, it's just been an exceptional tool to use in our classroom. We love trying new things. Like I just invited Mrs. Hickson for a lab, and I said, well, it might not go perfectly, but the kids were so good. As soon as they got to the lab table, they all were facing in and focused, and they're hooking things up, and they're working together, and it just really is no problem getting them excited about what we're doing. This class, 5th hour, does have the highest percentage. I've kind of been watching all along, and they have the highest percentage grade now, and I think a lot of it's due to the great notes they're taking, because it's fun to take notes, and the great animations. It's helping them remember the science material that we're teaching. I am collecting the handhelds from them at the midterm of fourth quarter, and fifth hour is not real excited about that. But I did tell the other classes, that don't have them, that they get a chance to use them for a week or two and just see what they're all about. Because I really wanna encourage the kids, if they can save their allowance money, work money, whatever over the summer, that they're under $200 to purchase one of these for high school and use them, like Monica said, to take notes or to have books on them, like Nick mentioned, and just have that resource available to them. So it's been a wonderful experience. I'm so glad that Valby, thank you for sending me that email, because I wouldn't have known about this. And thank you for inviting me to share with you what we're doing in my classroom. So,
Any
do
questions?
you have any questions? Yeah.
A couple. What was the all-in cost for this grant? How much did that run for?
It was, all of these palms, just for my classroom, were in the keyboards and the probes, came to about $8,000 for my classroom, and the grant was through Ingham ISD.
And how many units were there?
I have-
Included in this package?
I have 30 handhelds for my
30
classroom.
handhelds. For 8,000.
And 30 keyboards. And then that, of course, has all the software. Each student got a package of software to take home, load on their computers. If they don't have a computer at home to use, then they save the information or hot sync in my classroom. So the technology department has been great as well. I've had numerous requests. Can you come over and load this new program? How about this new program? So they're in my classroom all the time, and they've been very helpful.
Okay, the second question is statistically, what is the difference in the overall grade for these students versus the others?
Really, I've been keeping track of test and quiz grades, and even homework. I keep track of homework that's turned in on time, late homework and missing homework, and it's just amazing how many homework assignments now are turned in that we didn't get them right away at the beginning of the school year, so I use kind of first marking period in comparison to the marking periods now. And we don't have, I always say, some of the other classes have said, fifth hour must be your favorite, because I'm always saying, fifth hour doesn't have any homework, that's late, you need to get that homework turned in. It's just, I think a great motivational tool, and it's not a question of whether or not they're gonna do it. I think they are excited to do it when they go home. So just looking at, homework turned in and even quiz and test scores.
Significant difference? Minor difference?
I would say half a grade to a grade per person, so.
Significant.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Colleen, was there met with any resistance at all? I don't think so. When I came to
We
your
had a-
classroom,
Not with the students. We had a big parent meeting, and all the parents had to be there before I passed out this equipment, so the parents knew what type of responsibility the student, they were having, $300 carrying around with them. And we had to talk about the technology rules, like, you can't take the camera and just take pictures of people. You have to ask if you want to take a picture of a student in the lab, or, So we talked about a lot of things at the parent meeting, and a few of the parents were nervous about the students getting, these handhelds, what happens if it breaks, what would we have to pay, and what if they lost it, a lot of those type of questions. And parents were nervous too. They said, we can't help them, so what if they are at home, and, some of the parents were saying that. And I said, we'll have lots of support at school, and even the students, I stand up there and say, I don't know everything there is to know about the handhelds, I'm learning along with them, but the students are great. We just had the lab with Mrs. Hicks, and we thought it would be really easy to take the graphs that were on our handhelds from the probes and beam them to each other. Well, it wasn't that easy. So one of the students figured it out that night, came home, went home, worked on it, came back the next day and said, Mrs. Pringle, I got it. So, it's everybody's helping everybody in there. It's not just I'm teaching, the kids are teaching each other, and it's just a great tool.
maybe we need these for Julie Price.
She would love it.
Hey, Colleen, you raised one issue about the appropriateness of the pictures. What do you talk about the ethics? Teach them now about ethics, so when I get them, then we don't, we don't have control over whether they bring them in the class and whether they bring in their cell phones, which they can text message answers on quizzes and stuff, where they plagiarize right off the internet and download right from the internet and give it back answers. Do you start right now talking about those kind of ethical issues with using this technology in relation to ethics?
Absolutely, we certainly did. We talked about beaming, and if they get to use their calculator on a test, or they could be beaming student answers. So we talk about, you know, the consequences that will come along with that. We talk about, you know, the appropriate way to take pictures and what we should be taking pictures of. And of course, I said if you take them home and you see something interesting, you want to take a picture at home, just like games, they're allowed to have a certain number of games, educational games on there, but they're not allowed to have inappropriate, you know, shooting games or something like that. So we have rules, and we went over all of them at the parent meeting, and I think the students have been doing an excellent job. I do random checks on their handhelds, so I'm looking, I tap on all the icons. I look at memo, I look at photos, you know, they do all their science journals, where the other students keep a spiral journal. They keep all their journal entries on their handheld, so I collect their journals and their handhelds, which are their journals, and correct those. So, yeah, you know, it is a lot of monitoring on my part, but I don't feel like, you know, that's any different. They could be writing a note to a student in their paper journal, so, you know, just when they're using their handhelds, I walk around a lot, and I think the checks are important to make sure that they're, you know, using them the way they're supposed to be using them.
Colleen, I missed what grade, is this 7th grade?
This is 8th grade.
8th grade science, okay. The durability, I guess you probably haven't got a real good handle on that yet, because you've only had them.
Right, we used them a half a year last year and a full year this year, and I was nervous about that. That was one of my questions, you know. What if they don't work? What if it truly has a problem with it and the student, you know, didn't break it or drop it? And Melissa White at Remsey, she's the one who has been working with us, training us on these, and they did have a warranty for a year. And so any of the keyboard problems or handheld problems, I would package them up, send them right back to her. She would ship us new ones. Like Monica's actually, she had a little problem with her. One of hers sent it in, they sent us a new one. So we've had really good, and we haven't had to send her too many.
Right.
So I feel that they really lasted. You know, students aren't always
Right. Well, that's what,
careful with them. They go in the backpacks and they sling them on their back,
Right.
but it has been.
so you still have 30 of them?
We do. We do. So no replacements
Okay,
yet.
well, that's
Yeah.
about as good as durability as you could ask for if you still got 30 of them.
Right.
Okay.
They've been doing a great job.
Okay.
And another responsibility the students have is to charge them every night and bring them back ready to be used for the next day. And they just know it's an expectation, and they do a great job doing that.
Now, that
Yeah.
kind of ties into what my question was,
Really?
is,
Okay.
what would happen if a student lost one or broke one, whatever?
Last year, at the end of the year, we had a student that couldn't find it, and so I gave the name and information to Melissa White, and she said she would send a note that they had to pay the replacement fee for it. And it was down from what it cost to buy it because of, you know, all the
Being
use and
used.
everything, but, yeah, he did have
And
to
so this is
replace
something
it.
that the parents had to agree to at the beginning of the
That's
class?
right, and they signed, you know, a form that they agreed to do that. But I didn't have a parent that didn't want to. I think they saw the opportunity that was
Mhm.
there for their child and
Yeah.
thought it was a good idea. Any other questions?
Go ahead, Rob.
You know, I guess I just
Learn would be
would
great.
say, and
Learn one.
Jeff, we've talked about this in technology in the classroom. I think as important as how they're applying it is that they're learning to use the Palm Pilot. I can't, you know, I don't go to meetings where we get to the point where we're trying to figure out who's got a date open, where everybody doesn't pull out some kind of pocket PC or Palm Pilot. So, I mean, it is the way the business world works, and I think a lot of just the world works using this kind of technology. So, you know, I'm really pleased that we're not only exposing them to the technology, but showing them how to use it in other ways. It's true.
And thank you for the interactive presentation, because Jeff has a tough act to follow.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
That was great.
Yeah, thank you.
My presentation is not interactive. You will have to part the table. We do have a presentation on the screen tonight, so.
I did. I just saw.
So you got the new technology.
That is far down.
Make sure it's coming up though.
We should put this down there.
Mike, you really did take the words right out of my mouth. I do have a tough act to follow after that. But on the other hand, both Colleen and Julie
really provided a great lead-in for my topic tonight, which is a review or an overview of our technology mini-grant program. You heard both Julie and, too many lights out here. Both Julie and Colleen talked about grants, which gave them the opportunity to get technology in their classroom. And one was from the foundation, the other one was from the Hingham ISD. And that's exactly what we want to do here, is to provide teachers the opportunity to come to us with ideas for technology that would help them integrate the technology in their classroom and help them teach the curriculum. So we offered this February for the first time the Technology Mini-Grant Program. And I'm pleased to say it was very well received by the teachers. And what I would like to do right now is give you just an overview of some of the items that were requested and some of the items that we had the opportunity to fund and hopefully have some positive results like you've seen tonight. First of all, we introduced this program back in February. There was about a 6 or a 7 week application period. The applications were due at the end of March. And then over the course of the last 2 weeks, a small review committee, namely Sharon Jones and myself, along with input from the building principals when appropriate, we took the time to review all the applications and awarded technology based on a number of criteria that I'll talk about in just a moment. As I mentioned, we did have a very positive response to this program. We had 48 grants that were submitted. You can see the breakdown by building, the number that we received from each building. Some teachers, most teachers applied individually, but several applied either as a group or in teams. And so we actually had 67 different teachers who were represented in those 48 grant applications. And as you can see, we had about $150,000 in funding requests. So that's positive, obviously, but on the other hand, presents a challenge in funding all of those. This is a breakdown of the 48 grants. As you can see, about half of the grants, or close to half of the grants, were for, or proposals were for smart boards. Those were primarily at the elementary level. Probably about 80% of our smart board proposals came from the elementary level. We also had 10 different applications specifically requesting data projectors for the classroom. And that was primarily from the secondary level, the request for data projectors. And then you can see just a number of other requests, such as document cameras with a data projector. Again, that's kind of the electronic version of an overhead projector. Some more handheld data collection devices like Colleen demonstrated to us tonight, and a few other things. I won't read through all of those, but you can get an idea of what teachers were requesting. I did mention that we had selection criteria that we followed as we reviewed the proposals and then actually awarded the grants. First and foremost, the practical integration of technology into the curriculum. We are looking for ways to fund teachers to do just what Colleen is doing and just what Julia is doing. Also, the ability to enhance or expand student experiences or learning activities, the innovative use of technology, and the ability to replicate proposed technology in other classrooms. We're treating this kind of as a pilot program where we truly want to find out what technology has an effect on student learning, a positive effect, what teachers are using or are willing to use, and how successful it is. And so we are looking for that ability to replicate the technology in other classrooms. And then, of course, thoroughness of the application. After reviewing a very difficult decision with 48 different grants, but we were able to fund either partially or fully about 26 of those proposals. Over $100,000 in new technology we're going to be able to bring into the classrooms as a result of this. And as you can see, the funding for this will be through technology bond and also general fund accounts. Over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, with technology prices coming down, part of our technology bond was to cable the classrooms and also provide new computers for the classrooms. But because the prices of computers and other technology have come down over the years, we've not spent all of the money that was budgeted for the technology portion of the bond. So we saw this as a prime opportunity for us to take advantage of some additional funds to actually help integrate technology into the curriculum. About 85% of the funding will come from the technology bond, the other 15% from a technology general fund account. I want to give you a brief overview of the items that we selected to fund. Again, as I mentioned, we saw a large interest at the secondary level for additional data projectors to be used in the classroom. And so rather than fund an individual teacher or a group of teachers and give them a data projector for use just in their classroom, we decided to provide additional data projectors for the secondary schools. And at the high school, that meant 6 additional data projectors. Those will be on carts with the necessary cables, more than likely to be shared by a department. So the science department may have their projector to share, social studies, and so forth. Meridian High School, an additional data projector, and then Hazlet Middle School, 2 additional data projectors. In addition to that, currently our technology labs do not have ceiling-mounted data projectors in them. And that is obviously a logical place to have a data projector. And so we're using these technology bond dollars to go ahead and every single technology lab mount a data projector that would be connected to a demonstration computer that the teacher would use. So that would be at both the secondary and the elementary level. Smart boards. Smart boards, obviously, very exciting technology. We piloted the 2 at Wilkshire earlier this year, and there was a lot of interest generated because of that. We did have 19 applications for smart boards. We have decided to award 9 teachers with smart boards. 3, and we're focusing again for this primarily at the elementary level because 80% of those applications came in from the elementary level, and we know we've had success at the elementary level. So 3 each at Murphy, Raleigh, and Wilkshire. We also are still looking at this as a pilot, although it is proving to be a pretty successful pilot. And so we do want to increase the number of smart boards in our classrooms, but at the same time not spend all of our mini grant dollars on smart boards because of some of this other wonderful technology you've seen tonight. So 9 more will be going in, and hopefully before the end of this school year. That's the goal actually for all of this technology, that we begin ordering it now and getting it installed before June so that teachers have a few days to experiment with it before the end of the school year, come in over the summer if they choose, and definitely have it in place for next fall. Calculator or handheld-based data collection devices. I don't have to spend time on this at all, as Colleen just demonstrated to you. We had 3 requests for these, one coming from Hazlet High School, the other from Hazlet Middle School, and then the 3rd from Meridian High School. We are funding all 3. They're pretty much the same, although some of the teachers requested a handheld data collection device, such as the Palm, others a calculator-based data collection device, the TI-84 calculator, the graphing calculator. So this would include the handheld or the calculator device, the software that they would use for graphing purposes and to integrate with the computer, all the different sensors and probes, for them to measure pH levels, temperature levels, motion detection, so on and so forth. So I won't spend any more time on this because I think Colleen did a good job, but we are funding 1 at each Hazlet High School, Middle School, and Meridian High School. We had 1 teacher at the high school, a geometry teacher, request Cabri geometry software. It's, as you can see, 3-dimensional software, or it's software that allows students to construct 3D objects to help them learn and understand geometry concepts. Not only can they produce these 3D images, but then they can actually manipulate them right on the computer. So it will be a lab pack or a site license actually, so we can load it on a number of computers at Hazlet High School. And the teacher in his proposal would take the students either down to the computer lab or to the media center where we have plenty of computers for all students to sit at to use this software. The high school art teachers have requested computers and accessories and software to bring their program into the 21st century. So much like the journalism class in the yearbook, we are now providing additional computers and software for our high school art class. They're going to get 5 new computers with the Adobe Creative Suite software package, which includes programs like Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, the same software they're actually using in the yearbook and the newspaper right now. But this will allow the students to get more into the graphic design, experiment a little bit with animation. This picture here shows a piece of software where they can construct this building, and you can see the grid in the middle picture. But this is all art on the computer with some accessories, as you can see, a scanner, digital camera, and printer. At Hazlitt Middle School, they have a video production program that has gained in popularity over the last couple of years. And they got some initial equipment a couple of years ago, and because the program is so popular and a lot of students are participating in that, they need additional equipment. And so we're going to be providing through this grant program 2 additional cameras and an EMAC computer that they'll use for editing. At Hazlitt High School, our band director, David Gott, has requested some digital recording equipment for his band class. He presented us with a lot of research from educational publications and journals that suggest that students, band students and music students need immediate feedback in order to improve. And so this digital recording equipment will allow him to record their performances and play it back immediately, and so that they can critically analyze their performance and improve. Also, many universities now are requiring high school students to submit audition tapes when they're applying for the music program at the university. And so students would be able to use this digital recording equipment to produce auditions and submit with their college admissions paperwork. We are also going to be awarding 2 teachers document cameras and data projectors at the high school. It's the special education teacher, it's Veronica Pichot, and at Ralia, the 4th grade teacher, Joe Dutcher. There's a picture of a document camera right there. There's actually one in the room that's now replacing our overhead projector. But the document camera connects to a data projector and allows a teacher to put, it could be a paper, a magazine article, a newspaper article, or a 3D object to project to the students in the room. The teachers made a compelling argument that oftentimes when they use magazine articles or newspaper articles, to simply make an overhead out of it, a transparency, really takes away from that piece of work that students really, sometimes when they're looking at a piece of work, it needs to be in its original form, the color and so forth. And also the ability to put 3D objects, especially at the elementary level, geometric shapes, science projects, and so forth, can be projected from this document camera. So, 2 of those going in, again, as a pilot in the district. We do have some expectations of all of our grant recipients. Number 1, they do need to submit to us an evaluation of their technology project. In this case, it will be due December 15th, so we can find out how successful it was or is. We are also asking them to share information with other staff members in their building about the technology, whether that be a presentation at a staff meeting, providing training to other teachers, or simply inviting other teachers into their classroom to observe the technology. That's exactly how the smart boards gained so much popularity in our district, is the teachers at Wilkshire invited other teachers in to see. And again, we want to replicate this technology if it's popular or if it's effective in other classrooms throughout the district. So this is a very important piece of our grant program. And then finally, possible presentation to the Board of Education. So hopefully we'll have many more examples of true integration of technology into the curriculum at future board meetings, just like you saw tonight.
Will be interactive.
So, and it very well could be interactive. So we'll warn you ahead of time.
Another reason.
I do have a summary sheet that I'm going to pass out. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Jeff? Beth?
Jeff, do you foresee in the future the possibility of doing any smart boards in the secondary level?
I do.
Because it seems to me like this is one of those things that kind of starts out
Yes.
small, and then as soon as everybody starts seeing it in the building, they're gonna all,
We
lots
did
of
receive
folks
a-
are gonna want
yes.
it, and
We did receive a couple of proposals for the secondary level. They were good proposals. we had a difficult time. I would say
Oh, yeah,
all
I can
19
imagine that
were
it
very
was
difficult.
tough.
So we thought that we would just focus at the elementary level. We do plan to offer this technology mini grant on an annual basis. It's not going to be at the figures that we're funding tonight, but we hope to set aside at a minimum about $25,000 a year for technology mini grants. So we're going to change the timeline a little bit too, so that we introduce the grant in the fall, and with the idea that teachers probably would have to submit it a deadline of around Thanksgiving time, and they would actually have the technology in their classroom for the start of second semester. So there still is that opportunity for teachers at the secondary to get smart boards next year.
Good, good. Because you know what, one thing we seem to see year after year with the technology is that the more we do, the more people want. So that's good to see.
And that's a good thing. To be honest, it makes me a little bit nervous. At the same time, we have a very small department, and not only the I guess just the administrative part in terms of ordering $100,000 worth of equipment and getting that installed, that's going to be a large task. But it's the ongoing support that concerns me, both the technical support, but also training and maintaining this equipment. So, you know, as we continue to add technology somewhere down the line, I guess this is my little plug, we may have to consider, you know, expanding the technology department a little bit. But I think, you know, it's for a great cause.
Yeah. This is I mean, I think what you did was a great way to not only maximize the money you spent, but, you know, push for this integration of technology, which, technology is a vehicle to deliver academics. But, you know, I look down this list and I go back to that dang high school, and, you know, I look at the people and it's the same, there's only 3, you know, from the hardcore science, it's all, there's you know, that want the data projectors, which is another form of a whiteboard as far as I'm concerned. They're probably projecting up. But, I mean, there's 3 that are what I would call out of the hardcore disciplines. Somebody's got to educate those folks on the potential use of the whiteboards and these data projectors to quit writing their lectures on the board and on old-fashioned overheads. It's ineffective, and every time I go there, they're still doing it, and they could do so much more. And I look down here and I'm glad Mr. Toby and Mr. Bunchweiler and BB and his crew do it. But where's the English teachers? Where's, you know, there's one math teacher with science, but none of them are using this stuff. They're still using those handouts and stuff. And I just hope that this catches on, because they really, really do need to be much more advanced up there.
And that's why I really spent a little bit of time when I talked about the expectations of the grant recipients, because we're putting this technology in the buildings to hopefully get other teachers excited about it. And we want our teachers who are receiving the technology to go out there.
There is an English teacher there.
So, I mean, I think that that's probably one of our best shots at getting other teachers interested in the technology and using it, is to put it in the hands of their colleagues.
Other questions?
Jeff, we used to have, historically here, we used to have a mini grant program that the board offered, over and above what the little mini grants, or not, I shouldn't say little, smaller mini grant that the foundation awards, and then they were able to team up, maybe get as high as $1,500 or $2,000. I see now, and we used to have struggle, because I used to be on the review committee for that, to get applications. I am certainly gratified to see that times have changed, that 67 applicants, or more applications, but 67 teachers represented in the application process, which I guess calculate to about 40% of our staff. I would think that in looking at the list here as well, that I see an awful lot of the younger teachers, so the turnover has certainly helped a little, I guess, in this, but I'm gratified to see that they are at least open to looking at it and trying to get some of this equipment. Colleen's presentation was excellent for me, as far as I was concerned, because that's exactly what we were trying to look at 10 years ago. We used to meet at Bagel Hall and try and go over these things.
Whatever,
right?
yeah, it was.
Whatever it was, and we would get 4 or 5 and struggle, and we'd fund 3 of them, and you know. But one of my parting statements will be, because I don't know how many times I'm going to be able to have this microphone, but with you at the podium anyway, will be is that I would warn you not to set the level too low, like I just heard you do, as far as the number that we won't be able to fund at this level, but we'll only be able to fund. I would just say to you that let the board involved with this. Let us make some of that decision as well, because after all, we are the ones that have the purse strings, and we are the ones that are extremely interested, I believe, in this. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking alone here, but we are extremely interested in the technology. The number here didn't scare me as far as what we're doing. And so don't set your expectations too low, is what I'm gonna warn you to do. I won't be here, but I'm just warning you that I think this board is very interested in levels higher than what you said, maybe not that high, maybe that high. I don't know. I won't speak for the future seven, but I'm just warning you. These are the things that we're looking for. I would say that I'm disappointed that I was thrilled to see the Smartboard presentation when I went over to Wilkshire. I saw another demonstration when I was recently in San Diego, and I understand your enthusiasm for the elementary school, but I'm disappointed that it's not in the middle school, at least in the middle school yet, at least with one of them, to be able to get into the culture, to be able to have other teachers not have to go to Wilkshire to see one, but can go down the hall to see one. And so I'm disappointed that although you did purchase several of them, one of them at least didn't get into the buildings of whoever would have, I don't know if any requested it to middle school, but.
Well, we did.
That's the seed that you did at Wilkshire. I wish that seed was presented at the other levels. Because I think it's a whole different ballgame as far as what I saw with that board, as far as circles and squares and triangles and, you know, those kind of demonstrations, and then converting that into a middle school software situation. But they are, I mean, I was excited about that. That was an extremely interesting look. And what really excited me was the kids. I mean, the teacher did a great job. She knew what she was doing. She knew how to use it. But the kids at second grade sat there just riveted to the board. And every one of them were raising their hands trying to participate in that. And I'm going, gee, I mean, that's pretty tricky to get 7-year-olds, I think, to do that. And I think it would be really tricky to get 10, 11, 12-year-olds to do that too in the middle school and on. But don't set your levels too low. That's all I'm saying. Let these people become involved with the funding of that, because they are very interested in it.
I like everything you're saying, actually, so we'd be happy to do this every year if we could. And you do set the policy, and so if that is a priority, you know,
It is.
we'll
It
be
has
there,
been,
so.
it will continue to be, and that's why I'm saying, don't, you know, if we had a state champion baseball team here every year, we wouldn't tell the coach to restrict his number of bats as far as he were gonna purchase every year, okay? So what we're telling you is, we don't have a state championship technology program, but we'd like to. So we want more bats, okay?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Thank you. We do have a very good commission, I must say. I know, Jeff, you put a lot of effort into this, and I won't speak on behalf of Mr. Fowler, but I can tell you we have an extremely strong interest in a technological push. I want to echo Phil Garner's comments that it is extremely disappointing in my eyes that in my opinion, the need for technology is most important at the high school level, because these young people are going out into the real world, and they need to hit the ground running, understanding the utilization of technology and how it's used both in the public and private sector. I also think one of my favorite subjects is history. Can you think of a more appropriate interface where if you have your curriculum put onto a laptop, if you will, in PowerPoint, where you can easily update up-to-the-minute information on history as it unfolds, and we live in a very dynamic time, versus trying to put something on an overhead projector with a little wax pen, write things on it. I mean, this is such an interactive platform, and it is such a dynamic learning technique. Young minds will gravitate towards being stimulated for learning. It puts you on the cutting edge. I simply don't understand the reticence of using technology. Is it hard work getting your program up and running? Yes, it is. But the bottom line is the kids benefit from it in a dramatic fashion. And is this a calling out of the teachers at the high school? I think we have a fantastic teaching staff. They're dedicated for the learning of our kids. But here's a very powerful tool. Utilize it. We want to fund this. The benefits are there. It's just, it's going to start. Is it happening fast enough for my taste? Not at all. And I echo what Scott has said. This is something where you leverage your dollars. You get a big bang for the buck. Welcome.
Well, I suspect it's not happening fast enough for you either, Jeff. I mean, I think we're all on the same page.
I think this is a step in the right direction. I mean, we're funding at least a half a dozen teachers at the high school level. We do need more, and I guess I'm hoping that because of this, and if the staff sees the commitment from the district in funding them, that we will get more and more teachers who apply and that we can fund, because you're absolutely right. I mean, we need to make this learning more dynamic for the students, and technology is a great way to do that.
I'd like to ask a question in regards to the requests. I see like the requests for smart boards, perhaps at Murphy, were different than the requests for smart boards at Wilkshire, but they cost the same to purchase, correct?
Yeah, when teachers put their proposals together, they got their information on how much it costs just from different people or different areas. And so that's why you're seeing some inconsistencies in the amount that the teachers requested for funding. Other teachers also requested, in addition to a smart board, a scanner, for example. If you notice, there is a column that shows how much they requested, and then there's a column that we've indicated how much they're being funded for. And in the case of the smart board, it's always higher. And that's because actually the part that teachers didn't take into consideration was most teachers took into consideration the smart board and the data projector, but not the mount. Well, no, the mount for the projector, the installation, and some of the other items that go along with that. And so we did bump that up to reflect what we think it's going to cost to have a smart board installed properly in a classroom. And but the differences in what they requested is just a matter of where they got their information from.
If you have a partially funded one here, like the document camera was $4,160, you're going to fund $3,000. Is that the price you buy everything they requested at $3,700, or partially funded? Does that mean somebody has to do without something?
In the case of that one, we chose to partially fund the project. The one piece that we're not funding, at least initially, and this is how I presented it to the teacher, was an actual mount, projector mount in that teacher's classroom. That teacher actually wanted that data projector mounted with the document camera. I've suggested that we first try it on a cart with the cables and see how that works. And I wrote a note on his letter, and indicating that he received it, that if this doesn't work, we will look at mounting it in the classroom. So that's where the partial funding comes in for that one.
Okay. I just wondered on the partial, anybody would be left with pieces, but not something that.
No, another one on there that was partially funded was the mini lab request at the high school art room, but they had requested 10 computers and the software licenses that go with it and a couple digital cameras. We felt, in order to fund as many teachers as possible, we wanted to scale that back to 5 to give them an opportunity to learn and see how it's going to work in the curriculum, and then look at expanding that either to another grant or just, out of the general fund or a building budget.
Jeff, I think it took me a while to understand the genius of the approach that you're taking to technology, and that, it seems kind of uneven. I mean, as a relatively new board member, it seemed to me that the fair thing to do would be simply to buy the same technology for every classroom, and then it became apparent that some don't want that technology. Some teachers simply don't want it, and I think your experience is if you buy it for them, they don't want it, they're not going to use it. They just want to put it into use, and then it's not money well spent. I guess my question is, what do we do to incentivize incent teachers to want to? And should it eventually be a part of teachers' evaluations, or should, to say, why aren't high school teachers requesting it? Don't we want them to, and how can we give them an incentive to, or, make it part of the deal? I mean, to some degree, the reward is getting it if you want it, but if you don't want it, it's no reward. So how do we make you want it? How do we find a way to?
I think part of that is exactly what we're doing. First of all, show a commitment that if you request technology and you can, you clearly indicate how you're going to use it to enhance student learning, we're going to have the dollars to back it up and put it in your hands. At the same time, when the teacher in the classroom next to me has it and I don't, and I see how it impacts learning and how excited the students are getting, then I think that's going to motivate me a little bit more to apply. Or ask for that same technology. I know there's a number of different ways, and you were talking about the evaluation, but that's something that contractually would have to be negotiated. So I don't know. We're kind of struggling with that ourselves, and we saw this as one opportunity or one way to try to get teachers excited about it.
Well, it's maybe an unfair question to you. I guess it was a little more rhetorical than it was a question directly to you, Jeff. Shouldn't we figure out a way to incent or expect, or maybe even go so far as to require, that our teachers apply the technology that's available to them that we believe will help improve education? Again, sort of rhetorical, and I realize that there's a lot more to it than just that, but that's one element here that I don't think it's a button we pushed yet.
The leverage that the teachers can gain by modernizing the information flow, the manipulation of the data to present it to the students in maybe a more efficient manner, updating it, it leverages the teacher's ability to teach also. It's such a powerful tool. It's not an easy thing to harness. It can be a bit intimidating at times, but it just seems like it's a very logical way to go. We just want to get there a little faster.
Well, we do too.
I think, this is certainly an excellent topic for administrators to have a discussion about, knowing that it's certainly a desire of the board to integrate technology even at a faster pace than this grant proposes, and we would certainly take that on as to have a discussion about how we might move the pace along. I just can't tell you how excited I personally am and how excited I think we should be as administrators about the technology grants that Jeff has put together. He very, very carefully scrutinized each one of these grants, and what you don't see in that report is the grant itself, and some were poorly written. Those of you who've served on board committees or foundation committees and read grants, some are, though it may look as if it's a wonderful grant, it really, the teacher or whomever is putting it forth hasn't quite understood how to manipulate it and get it to work. So it was a very difficult task, and Jeff spent a great deal of time sifting through and really trying to make an impact across the district with a whole variety of things so that we could begin to start integrating technology. It's probably the first time that we have really splashed on to the stage in a very dramatic fashion. We should really be excited about it. I know you're frustrated with maybe it's not enough and it's not fast enough, but that's certainly something I think as administrators we should begin to discuss.
And we maybe need to state really clearly to Jeff that we want to know what you need to grow this.
And he's very
Because
cautious.
maybe we haven't done that in a way that we should, because, it's very easy to talk in terms of the money that we don't have and the things we don't have, but, we just need to know what you need, and then it's up to us to try to figure out how to juggle things to get to where we want to go.
Jeff is very modest and he doesn't ask often, but he does have a very small staff that that's responsible
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
whole
I
lot of
know.
things. And just to implement this $100,000 of grants and get it in teachers' hands, you heard Colleen talk tonight about how receptive the technology department was to be in her classroom, to be there to help her do all the things that she needed to do, and that's all teacher time. And just a reminder that Jeff's technology department also supports, you know, all the mandates the state puts down on us, all the pre-identification for MEP and on and on and on. It's not just curriculum integration, it's every other bit of technology we have going on in the district with, what, 5 people? It's a monumental task. So, my favorite little picture of Jeff, although he probably wouldn't show you this, in the fall, he's standing on a ladder with his head in the ceiling, you know, cooking up some kind of technology last fall. And I took it and sent it over to him and said, and this is your job as the director?
It's the first day of school, you know, you have to
It's the first day of
do what it
school,
takes to get things running, so.
But he really needs to be commended for his quiet leadership.
And I think we all really do feel very strongly that we appreciate what you brought to the table since you've come to the district, so.
Thank you.
You worked a miracle that we couldn't work
Yeah.
from our end. But one last parting shot for me, if I could.
Thought the last one was.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you're still there. So, my fear, and it's a fear, and I hope it's an unjustified one, is that this isn't just a trendy, I'm gonna request this little piece of equipment because I know I can use it in week 12 of my curriculum, and by God, the first 11 weeks and the 13th on, I'm not gonna be using that type of a thing. I mean, my fear is, like the computers that we mass installed and said, okay, everybody needs 2. I mean, I really don't remember how we arrived at the number 2, but everybody got 2. I mean, that was, and we touted that, and, you know, I firmly believe that there are several dusty computers in the district because there's 2 of them in there and they don't need to. So my fear is not, as great as this is, as great as the start, as great as the seed as it is, I just hope, and I know you're busy, and you only have 5, I just heard, that there's somewhat of a monitor here to say, hey, and I'll pick any old name out here, and I'm not picking on anybody, you know, number 13 on here, teacher, how did you use that? I wanna know. I mean, and so that all of them know that just because you're getting this, doesn't mean you can use it in week 12 and move on. I mean, you are expected to integrate this with the rest of your classroom, PowerPoint or whatever, whatever the equipment is that you got. I have no fear of that with the smart board. Really, I have none of that. But some of the other ones, I do have some fear that it's just gonna be a convenience for a couple days or one lesson and that's it. And that's not the intent here.
We definitely will monitor it, and I'm hoping that because there were some hoops that the teachers had to jump through to get the technology, that they are committed to using it, but
Yeah.
we certainly will.
And hopefully they'll drag the rest along.
Yep.
By the fact, as the smart board has done, I think. I mean, they're dragging them along, I mean, by showing them off, and hopefully the other stuff will do the same.
Tobias?
Jeff, as a follow-up to what Bevan and Scott have built upon, as we integrate more technology within our educational system here at Haslet, and you obviously have a very dedicated staff that's helping you implement this, I would suspect in the back of your mind someplace, you've kind of mapped out a natural growth for your department. And it's nice to have the hardware, it's nice to have the software installed, but we have to have the support to make it run. Because if we get all these nice projects in place, and the learning curve is steep, if we don't have the necessary support to help the teachers implement and utilize the technology, that becomes a very frustrating and blunting exercise. So I would hope that you would also mentally put together a plan, and if it needs to be formalized at some point, I mean, we're relying on you to let us know how quickly we need to make these adjustments, and then let the board make the decision to support this. Again, leveraged area of education within our system.
And I have put thought into it, and probably, you know, if we really want this to work, probably the next type of person we need is a curriculum trainer type of a person who can actually get in the classroom, and work with the teachers during the school day while they have students in the classroom to provide that support. I mean, the fear of technology with some people will prohibit them from using it.
Sure.
And if you have somebody there who's trained in curriculum and is comfortable with technology to kind of hold your hand and walk you through it, I think that's where we'll make great strides. And so that would be one direction I would certainly look at going.
Well, put it in front of us.
Okay.
Other
Tomorrow will be
questions for
fine.
Jeff?
Thank you.
Jeff, I did see you're gonna do this again, or you'd like to do this again this fall, you're gonna,
This fall, yes.
okay,
With the timeline being applications due around Thanksgiving so that they have technology in place by second semester.
good. Very good, Jeff. Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. Moving on to board reports, Finance and Facility Committee.
Yes, this stack of paper. The meeting took place today. We had discussed the school bus service agreement, which we'll have in front of us. We had talked about utilization of the sinking funds, and also Steve had updated us on a 04-05 budget update and 05-06, with a tentative look at 06-07.
Policy and Personnel Committee.
Yep, we met this morning, and we discussed changes for our meat testing and graduation requirements policy. And I think you all got a copy of that, right? We're trying to put a little bit more interest, make it possible for kids to have more interest in taking that, make it part of our graduation requirements and taking the test seriously. So I think that what we came up with will be very good. We, of course, had the update on the Wilkshire principal position, and we discussed the choices, the school, 2005, 2006 schools of choice numbers that we're looking at, but those numbers are not yet set in stone, so we're getting there. We look to, what are we looking at, Mike, here, 40 some? 45? Now, the one thing that we did talk about is that we've made an agreement to have a time period for a shorter time period than before as far as getting the schools of choice applications in, from June 5th to the 22nd.
That's correct.
And
3-week period.
yeah,
And that's for all Ingham County schools.
all in Ingham County. Anyway, so that's what we discussed.
Thank you, Bev. Also, just for everyone's information, Rob and Mike and I had the opportunity to attend the legislative breakfast Friday morning, and it was informative. There were a couple of presentations made by the ISD people, and Helen McNamara, who's the Director of Finance, did a PowerPoint presentation, which you have a copy of, that takes a look at healthcare and retirement costs and how they affect school budgets. And it's not a pretty picture, especially as you look at the projections as they move out. And so you have a copy of that to take a look at. And then, Rob, is there anything you'd like to add to?
I don't think so.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody on the board have anything they'd like to share with the board?
Yeah, I would. I had an opportunity, as did a couple of to my left and my right, to go to the National Convention last week, and had a very interesting time. And I'd just like to alert the rest of the board members that our budget woes here in Michigan are not unique. We're not on an island here. They are all over the country. I mean, in my small sampling of asking board members from South Carolina, California, South, North, wherever, what's your problem? Well, it's money. I mean, it's money. So, I mean, we're not alone in this boat. I mean, we all have that problem, but very interesting. Mikhail Gorbachev was there. Not all that interesting. He wasn't. Mikhail doesn't speak English.
His interpreter didn't
And
really
his
either.
interpreter, yeah, wasn't that good.
And they ran them both at the same
And they ran
time.
them both at the same
Oh, very
volume, so it
nice.
was like a voiceover, and the one you could hear or understand, the other one you had no clue what he was saying. So that wasn't any. And I think it's true that the Soviet, when you see him on TV giving those speeches and they say he spoke for 3.5 hours or whatever. Well, Mikhail was trying to do that. I know he had a time limit that wasn't exactly adhered to, because there were several people that were shuffling out the aisle there for lunch on that one. But anyway, it was very interesting. I got to see a couple very good speakers and got to see some demonstrations of the Smart Board at the National. And there are a lot of people you had to stand in line to get up to the front of that one. There were a lot of people interested in those, and they gave a very good demonstration. So I think we learned a little, and the weather was better here, from what I hear, than it was out there. So it isn't like we were escaping the winter of Michigan. So
That's okay.
just a thank you to the district. So.
I just wanted to say, I enjoyed the conference. I urge everyone to consider that at a future date, one of the national conferences. There were definitely some workshops that were of real interest. One that I went to was some of the things that the National School Board Association is doing regarding the No Child Left Behind Act, the kind of things that they'd like to see changed. That was very interesting and informative. And again, also you have that opportunity to speak to board members from other states, which is always very interesting and helpful. One of the speakers was Dr. Carson, who did the separation of Siamese twins in South Africa. And that was one where I just went, wasn't really expecting too much, not that interested in how they would go about doing that type of surgery. I'm sorry, folks, but that wasn't one of my. He was a great speaker. He was the most dynamic speaker that I heard at the entire conference, and he tied his experiences in with the things that are done educationally for youth, especially minority youth. He happens to be a black person, and it was absolutely fascinating and very enlightening to listen to. So one of the interesting things about these conferences, I went thinking I was going to just love hearing Mikhail Brezhnev because he's done quite a few really interesting things since he left his presidency, and was real disappointed at that, but then went to this other one and he was outstanding. But so there's lots of little choices of things that you can go to on board assessment and various kinds of initiatives. The trade show was always very interesting. The Smart Board did have a long line, almost as long as the line for the free chair massages and the fizzy fruit, which is cool. It's carbonated fruit. They're giving out samples of carbonated fruit they're doing for school lunches. So there's just like, you get every kind of thing that you can think of. It doesn't matter what it is. If you're considering it for your school system, you're going to find a vendor there who really wants to talk to you about it. The one thing I did learn a few years ago when I went to my first conference, because this was just my second one, was you do not ever give them your address because you will get mail forever. And
give them
ever,
Scott's.
and ever. Yeah.
They give you a card to swipe.
Yeah, so you just swipe your card. Don't do that. But anyway, highly recommend it because it was very helpful and informative.
I enjoyed it as well. It was a great weekend, not only an opportunity to get to know my fellow board members better, but to meet other people in other districts, including Michigan. We had a nice Michigan dinner with some other folks who I think are facing some bond issues next week. So we actually seem to be sitting pretty well compared to some of the other districts in Michigan. I agree, the trade show was great. I mean, it's an opportunity for us to go out and see what other school districts are doing, the type of opportunities that we can bring back to the classroom for our kids. Including things like the Smart Board presentation and options, including the Smart Board, where, we saw where it's on a cart. You could actually take it from classroom to classroom instead of having it just stationary in one classroom. So that's an option for us as well. And I think that that's one of the things when we have an opportunity to go out and to learn a little bit about what's good for our kids and what we can do to advance curriculum and education for them. So I really enjoyed that. And then once I got back last week, I had an opportunity to talk to Judy Tigrini, and I went out to the Meridian Historical Village and visited with some second graders in Patty Mashik's class and Carol Amor, and the kids were having a great time. And thankfully, it was before it started snowing, so they got out and had an opportunity. But I did have a chance to talk to the kids, and the majority of the kids just like that old schoolhouse the best. That's the best part about going over there. So I thank Judy for putting that on my radar screen, and I'd like to go again.
Thanks, Christy. Anyone else have something they'd like to share with the board? Thank you. We're moving on to action items. We have 6 action items. Would anybody like to pull any one discussion? Seeing no requests, I'll go through the action items. They are approval of the March 28th regular board meeting minutes, approval of the school bus service agreement, approval of district copy machine bid, approval of the building site sinking fund expenditures, approval of AV monitoring systems bid, and recommendation for approval of Gail Hicks as principal of Wiltshire Early Childhood Center. I would entertain a motion.
Support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? There are none. Congratulations, Gail.
All right.
And announcements, just a reminder that the annual school election will be on May 3rd. Please get out to vote.
Oh, I'm
we
sorry,
have-
Mike. Can I also say
Yes.
right here, interject, that Channel 25 is showing the Meet the Candidates Night several times a day. So for anybody in the community that's watching, they should try to pick that up. 3 times a day.
Where's the precincts are not one.
Sorry, Mike.
No, that's good. That's good information because it is available. If you, can they get the schedule for that, Mike? Brian?
Yes.
Yes. On the website and on the channel, if you watch the channel, the schedule's.
On the
Are they
website and the
different
channel,
times
the
every
schedule will
day?
be there.
Or are they at the same times?
I think Monday, Wednesday, or same Tuesday, Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but it's all on the web.
It's all on the website. Okay, good.
Which is good for the people that know how to do that.
It was excellent. If you didn't have the opportunity to see it live, please take the time. We have 5 interested people running for 2 seats, and it's important that you take the time to know who you're voting for.
Where's our precinct? We don't have the option of going to one precinct.
No, not
Should
this
have
year.
been mailed at precinct.
Yeah, I
Taken
know.
away.
I just don't know if we overruled it. Yeah. Gotta admit,
Our
we
little
searched it out.
cost-saving
We don't
move
make
went
the
down
call.
the tubes.
They tell us and we show up, and we pay.
And then the last announcement, the next meeting of the school board will be on May 9th here at 7 PM. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.